Were you when you enlisted?
19 years old.
And do you have any stories about it?
Tons of stories, fun, scary. I don't know.
And what would you say would be like the most memorable part of being in the Army?
The brotherhood.
The brotherhood?
The brotherhood.
Do you still keep in contact?
Yes, thank God we have social media now, because I couldn't imagine not being able to talk to the friends and all the relationships I built through the military, not being able to have what I have now. So if it wasn't for Facebook, I don't know what I would have done as far as keeping in contact. I know when I got out, usually guys don't ask other guys for their phone numbers, so you really can't keep contact that way. So yeah, social media has been a big help.
And then what rank were you when you enlisted, and what rank were you when you
I was an E1 PVT when I joined the Army. Got out as a sergeant. Yeah.
Okay, where did you grow up?
I grew up in, I would say, it would be southeast Los Angeles, Norwalk, California, Bellflower, California.
And then did you grow up with family?
Yes, I grew up my, kind of like a latchkey kid. My mom was working a lot. My dad wasn't in the picture. I have brothers and sisters. I grew up in kind of a real bad gang neighborhood. My stepfather stepped in and really took care of me, us, our family. Moved us to Bellflower and just got us out and helped us to really focus on school and focus on doing better for ourselves.
What made you want to enlist?
When I was a young man, I had a job. Well, first of all, let me say, I didn't want to enlist. Okay, I was one of those kids who said, I'll never join the Army. Not because I think I hated the Army. Maybe deep down inside I was a little afraid. I didn't want no one to, know I was afraid. But I definitely said, I don't want to go. I'm not going to go. I wasn't in mind to think I was going to go. I never thought. I was working. I worked in the city of Bellflower. Had a job. Had a car. Thought I had everything, really. And one day my mom came in the house and told me, you think you have everything, you go out with your friends, you go have a good time, but how are you going to live? Are you going to live here forever? And I sat down there one night and I was looking up at the ceiling of my room, and what was I going to do? I didn't make enough money to move out. I didn't make enough money for nothing, and I was 19 years old and I had no plan. And so I decided to join the military. I didn't tell anyone, actually. I did a delayed entry program. So I joined the Army in October. I went back to my school, my high school, and I talked to the principal and said, hey, what can I do to graduate? What can I do to finish? I'll do anything. And they said, you need to come, twice a day, because I went to a continuation high school. They had 2 sessions. So I went to both sessions, and then at night I went to night school. So I was going to school till like 5, 6 o'clock at night, and trying to graduate before I was supposed to go to basic in December. I ended up graduating right before Thanksgiving break, and that was it, really. I told my parents at Christmas, and 2 days later I was off to boot camp.
Wow. And so what places have you traveled to while you were in the Army?
I was in the Army, depends where I was at. When I was in Fort Knox as boot camp, I was stationed there, and I was sent there as a security holdover, waiting for my security clearance to come through. From there I went to Fort Lewis, Washington, and while I was in Fort Lewis, Washington, I was lucky enough to travel to Oregon and to Canada, Canada. And from there I went to Korea, South Korea. Was stationed Area 1, Camp Casey, Korea. From there, I re-enlisted because the Army told me if you don't re-enlist, you have to stay in Korea an extra 4 months. So I was like, well, I might as well re-enlist. So I remember Fort Knox. I had so much fun in Kentucky, so I went back to Kentucky. While I was stationed in Kentucky, I was the NCO in charge of training officers and training the captain's course, helping be a gunner, just teaching a lot of stuff, and it was really cool. Re-enlistment time came again, and the Army offered me $20,000 to go to Fort Hood, and I said, hey, I'll go. Hey, why not? I didn't know when I got to Fort Hood, Texas, 4 months later I'd be preparing to go to Iraq.
So you fought in the Iraq War?
Yes, we were 4th Infantry Division, 1st Brigade, left to Iraq in late March, early April of 2003. Served there until 2004, came home, prepared for another road to Iraq when I got out of the military.
Maybe like how did your parents feel when you enlisted and you kind of just like told them?
Well, it was really weird. So it was hard to keep the secret. I think my mom kind of wondered why I was so involved in school out of nowhere again, but she really didn't say nothing. I know at Christmas time I told my family, and I'm telling you the truth, I was the last one you would ever think to join the military. I was that guy, like, he's not going to go nowhere. And when I told them, they were just like, why? Really? Mm-hmm. It was just shock everywhere. My mom was a tough lady, so she never cried about me. She probably yelled at me a lot more. But I remember when they picked me up that day to take me to MEPS to leave to boot camp. Mm-hmm. We were driving away, and her and my stepdad were outside, and my mom just started crying. And I'm like, why is this lady crying? Trying to make me feel bad. But yeah, it definitely changed. I earned a lot of respect from my stepfather, from my mom. It was really different when they looked at you, when you would call them on the phone. They had a sense of pride in you. It was weird. They went from not really talking about you or not talking good about you to bragging about you. So that really felt really good. And I think that helped me mature as a man from being a boy.
And then do you have any funny story you want to tell?
Funny stories. Well, I got some rated R and some PG-13s. I got a bunch of them. So I know.
Any will do.
No, I know. Funny stories. I mean, actually the military is funny regardless. It's kind of you pass your time with your comedy, whether it be talking bad about each other's family members or just talking about each other, about just bad, like picking on each other all the time. I think that's more of like the brotherhood kind of picking, having fun. Funny stories you can think about. I can think about Iraq. He probably, if he ever saw this, he probably would say, why you keep bringing it up? I had my my loader, John Lugo. We were doing a traffic control point, searching cars, and I was sitting out on side by a sidewalk, and had one of my other soldiers, Hayes, on the other side of the car, looking in the vehicle, searching for weapons and stuff. And Lugo happened to discharge his 9mm, and it went right by my foot. The smoke, the dust came up, and I remember stopping for a second. And Hayes jumped up, and I looked at Hayes and said, "Hayes, you all right?" And he was a goofy guy from Louisiana. "Oh, I'm okay, Sarge." And I looked at Lugo, and Lugo had these big eyes. He's looking at me. I said, "You all right, Lugo?" He's like, I'm good. And I remember just smacking him. "What the hell are you doing?" He's like, oh. And then I was like, "You're all right, everything all right?" And we kind of just let it go. And over the years, because social media, every time he posts anything on Facebook, I go, "Hey, remember the time you almost shot me?" And then he happened to bring up the time where I happened to pee on him. And so the tank sits like this, right? So you have the tracks here and the tracks here, right?
Oh no, it's
in the very front slope, it angles like this. The very front slope of the tank, it angles. So if you gotta go pee and you don't want no one to see you, you just lean against the front slope of the tank and you pee under the tank.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Well, on a tank, there's so many engine parts, right? So it has hydraulic fluid and oil. So we were leaking oil. So my soldier wanted to know where we were leaking from. Well, under the tank they have these little plates. They're little drain plates. So I didn't know that he was under there opening the plate.
Oh my gosh.
Opening the plate to find out where we were leaking from, because we had been leaking. So he was opening the plates. He was under the tank. It's barely little room, so he can't he can run or move. And so so he's under there. So I'm in the so he's in the flat part. It goes up. I'm right here. He's right here. So I happen to go pee, right? And all of a sudden I hear him, hey. Like,
oh my God.
I'm looking around. And I'm still going because I don't see nothing, right? And what's that? So then I look down and he's wiping it off himself. And he's like, you peed on me.
Oh my gosh.
So now he always uses that. He always uses that. So every time I make fun of him, he goes, well, you peed on me, dude. Like, you peed, like, sorry, I almost shot you. You peed on me.
Oh my gosh.
So
That is crazy.
Yeah, so that's the story. So that's kind of why I say it's really funny because yeah,
That is hilarious.
that far, but but yeah.
Okay. Do you have any advice for other people that want to enlist, like young people?
If you want to go to college, I would say go to college and get your education. Only if it's in a field that you're gonna use in life. Don't go to school just to go to school. That's not gonna help you. What's gonna help you is becoming an adult and learning about yourself. And if you don't have any plans, I think the military is just a great way to go, just so that you can maybe get your idea, find out what you want to do. And if worst comes to worst, hey, you get out and you go to school, you get yourself, your college money and then you can figure it out. But like me, no plans, I had nothing, and I planned on staying forever. I thought the Army was, tough at first, and then it was just, I relied on it. It was part of me, it was part of my life. And when I got out, I definitely wasn't ready to. And, unfortunate circumstances led to me leaving. Mm-hmm. But there's not a day that goes by that I don't say, man, I wonder if I would have never left.
And would you ever consider like re-enlisting as like in the reserves or something?
Well, actually, it's a funny thing. I got out. I was out for 4 years, and I was thinking one day, I was like, you know what? I'm a fat guy, and I wonder if I gotta find a way to motivate myself. So I lost tons of weight, and I joined the Army Reserves. I was 88 November Movement Control NCO, and I did that for a little bit. But when you go from being a tanker tough guy, this mentality in the active duty, and then going to a transportation mode in the reserves, you realize it's just two different worlds.
Right.
And I wasn't made to sit behind a desk or made to not be in that same mentality. I'm used to people being crazy and let's go get it, to the actual operations of things, and that just wasn't for me.
Okay. Do you think the Army was a good choice or option for you to choose?
Yes. Now, if you could go back and you say, let me look at the big picture, I definitely wasn't gung-ho enough to be a Marine, and I definitely didn't have the mentality. They probably would have kicked my butt. Okay. Two, I didn't want to go be in the Navy because, well, I get seasick just walking sometimes, and the Air Force. Well, let's face it, I wasn't gonna get high enough score on the ASVAB to join the Air Force. So the Army was really my viable option. My grandfather was a tanker in the Army in World War II, and he was 5 foot, 1, 2, short guy, little guy when he was in, and I figured, hey, if he could do it, I can do it. And I figured, hey, I'll be a tanker just like him. Not knowing that as tall as I am, that the tank was going to be so small when I got in there. But definitely, it was the greatest thing I've ever done. When you pass on, you want to say you left your mark in this world. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like to say that, I left some kind of mark. I wasn't here just to be here. Mm-hmm. So that makes me feel real good.
Do you think you did it more for your country or for yourself?
I did it more for myself. I didn't expect to fall in love with my country.
Okay, that's an awesome answer, actually. What was your take on the invasion in Iraq?
The invasion of Iraq was definitely scary. I thank God that I wasn't the very first in. I am actually we were kind of called the cleanup force. What happened was when we got to Iraq, units were already on the ground. You had 3rd Infantry Division already moving through. You had 101st Airborne up north in Mosul. You had 82nd Airborne down south in southern Iraq. You had the Marines hauling butt through the country. When we went through, we actually rode hets. These big, for everyone else we call them tow trucks for tanks, and we were sitting inside of them, and we stopped maybe about 30-40 miles south of Baghdad, and then we stayed there, prepped our tanks. We rolled the rest of the way in, went through Baghdad, and I remember being on the freeway and seeing these guys waving at us. Like, what's going on? Why are they waving at us? Well, 3rd Infantry Division had stopped in Baghdad, and they told us keep going. So we rolled through the country in around 6 days, from Kuwait all the way to northern Iraq and Mosul. Went through Tikrit, had a lot of tanks break down. Didn't realize that the heat was going to be such a factor on the vehicles. We got lost once. Actually, ended up in a like a little farm, little small town, little huts and stuff with big trucks with missiles on them. So that was pretty cool. At least we found the missiles. I rolled through the country, and I remember getting to Mosul and the 101st Airborne being there, and they had no armor. So those guys had been since the beginning of the war. So they probably had been about 2 weeks, a week and a half, with no armor, and they were doing perimeter security on this airfield. And I remember us having the tanks, and we took over the security around the base, and those guys telling us thank you. They were so excited because they got time to rest. They were able to sleep. Those guys went at it for so hard for so many weeks that we were so glad to see them be happy and be good. So that was definitely crazy.
That's amazing. Were you ready for the invasion?
Honestly,
do you feel like you and your unit was, or
combat ready? I think we were. So what the military has is they have this training thing called intrinsic action. So in April of 2003, before the war, in April 2003, we were supposed to go relieve 3rd Infantry Division, because we were supposed to be next up in this training in intrinsic action in Kuwait. So we were preparing to go to the Middle East, not knowing we were going to go to the Middle East for the war.
Okay.
We were prepared to go just to do the training.
Mm-hmm.
So when the war kicked off, 3rd Infantry Division happened to be there. So that kind of pushed them up in the order to go. 4th Infantry Division was supposed to move through Turkey, through northern Iraq, but stuff fell through, and we ended up coming in south. So we actually just fall right behind them until they stopped, and then we just kept going. So yeah.
And then were you ever like scared or nervous at any point, or maybe feared for your life a few
I was
times?
scared like you don't know what. From the time they told us to prepare our tanks to go on the trains to get to the ships, I was already nervous. I mean, to think that going to war is going to make you're not going to be nervous, I can't see it. I was nervous when I heard. I was nervous when we got on the buses to go to the gym so that we can get ready to go to the airport to fly out. I mean, heck, when we got to Kuwait, I was nervous. I remember getting off before we got off the airplane in Kuwait, and we were going to go on these little buses to take us to our pre-mob site or pre-leaving site. I don't know what we'd call it, to leave to go into Iraq. They were saying, don't look out the windows, keep the curtains closed because there's snipers in the area. And you're thinking to yourself like, man, they're gonna shoot me already. I don't even have ammo yet. So I mean, you're scared the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So and then once you go into war, it's you're nervous, and you go in just trying to have that hunter mentality. I'm gonna go in there and just be a hunter, do my thing, and take care of my job and take care of my guys, and then you go from that, and it's nerve-wracking the whole time.
Yeah.
So
How different is being in the field from being at like basic or boot camp?
It's like boot camp, like as far as the field, like training, like as far as to go to do stuff, and boot camp itself. Boot camp is it's meant to break you down and build you up. Boot camp is meant to teach you the basics of the military. It's not really to teach you your job. Okay. It's just boot camp is teaching you how to be a real soldier and to make you miserable and see if you're going to be able to survive and function as a soldier. The field is a lot different. You know, when you're in boot camp, you can't snack and stuff. I know when we go to the field, we would fill our tanks up with as much junk food as we could, as much stuff from mama as we could, just so that we could you know, snack and have a good time out there. I mean, in the field, you train, and you don't get too much rest, but definitely different.
Does the scared feeling ever go away? Like, not necessarily like just being scared from being over there, maybe like what's going on today. Okay, maybe we shouldn't ask that one.
No, it's fine. No, the scared feeling, as far as you do get, I don't know, the paranoid feeling probably never really goes away, especially after, you know, you spend so long being at your like top of your like awareness. But as far as scared, yeah, it goes away. There's times out there. I mean, of course, you always realize where you're at. You know, you realize what's going on.
You're always aware.
You know, you know. But if it wasn't for the brotherhood, I always say that it's because they do things and they tell you things that just make you kind of leave for a second. You know, when you're out there and someone cracks a joke, someone says something funny. You know, before we deployed, I remember watching Beverly Hills Cop, and that part where they say, "I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe," and I remember coming into work the next day, and one of the other sergeants, Sergeant Bruins, and one of our soldiers that passed away at Brassfield had said the night before, "Hey, guess what I watched, man? I was watching Beverly Hills Cop, and I'm not going to fall for the banana tailpipe." And we all started laughing. And one night we were in Iraq, and it was real dark, and we had just got incoming mortar off fire. So we just came back out, basically, you know, to talk and stuff. And out of nowhere, Brassfield yells, "I'm not going to fall for the banana in the tailpipe." And we all just started cracking it. That moment, you know, you're just thinking to yourself, like, that is pretty funny. It's pretty good. You know, we have each other. And it goes away for that second. Sometimes you need that.
Thank you for coming in and sharing your stories.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
My name is I Night.